Okay, so we're recording. Your tones.
Do you mute us all?
And mute. Okay, so we have ourselves together now. Welcome to the second eclipse here at the fall equinox time of 2024, and so it's a lot of energy. There's been a lot of shifts obviously happen for us individually and collectively, and we during this eclipse time, right in the middle of the window, we have this huge Hurricane Helene just plow through the United States. A lot of states, a lot of damage. Again, it's an energy, and I was telling a couple of y'all earlier before I started the recording. The same thing happened with Katrina, and that's been almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And that's interesting. Things follow 19-year cycles with the moon's nodes, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that there was another big energy push, and of course I won't go into details about how some of those things come about, because they're, again, multi-dimensional events. You have natural forces and you have some unnatural forces and people that play with our collective energy fields in different ways, but I won't get into those things on this call. So what it does, though, Jude, when I first met Jude, it was after Katrina, about a year after Katrina, and she was telling me about how awful she felt leading up to that storm, and a lot of people did. Different light workers, people writing all the same thing, but it makes you queasy. It makes you very ungrounded. It really is Pluto and Capricorn, except with Neptune being aspected. Neptune, of course, is the seas, water, and when you have a huge shift of energy like that, it can create basically just more heavy disintegration, which is what it's meant to do. Obviously, you hope it won't take that type of form, but we don't always get to pick and choose how we're going to collectively make these shifts. And again, sometimes we have these things come up and people want to know the why. Well, if something's here, we all have a collective agreement that it was going to happen that way, because otherwise it wouldn't have happened that way. It just means that not enough people have shifted their own personal internal awareness to not have that as a potential outcome. And of course, that gets into a whole big, deep dive into the quantum realm of who we are as an expression, individually and collectively. But it really kind of underscores how imperative it is for each of us to really stay as deeply immersed in our hearts as we can to create the highest potential for ourselves, not just ourselves, but everything around us. Our communities, our states, nations, but also on the planet, and even in the universe when you go out universally and look at greater consciousness, awareness. So anyway, so welcome to all of you, and I hope these energies aren't hitting you too hard. Again, we really are breaking down, again, at the core of who we are as expression. And as I've stated, with, last couple emails, we really are in the last part of Pluto and Capricorn. And so as far as, let me see, this is October 2nd. It actually gets back into Aquarius, I think, middle of November, somewhere in there. So we've probably got maybe 3 more calls on these moon calls before we actually, get back into there. I will say that a lot of the astrologers are talking about Pluto is going to leave Capricorn. Or let me see. No, not leave. It actually turns direct, I want to say on October the 9th. Yeah, so it'll leave the retrograde, but it will not make it back into Aquarius until November. So, but what's going to happen, so let's say this time next week, it's going to, anytime Pluto's stationed, of course we're feeling it now, it's a really heavy energy. And this is the last time it will do it in Capricorn. So again, just to kind of recap a little bit, this is affecting everything with structures in our lives. But it's everything from the macro of our life, which is planetary and even cosmic and universal, but also in the micro part of our lives, all the way down to the atomic and subatomic levels of who we are on the molecular level. And so if all of those structures are changing, then it really is shifting just who we are as presence. And so once Pluto's in Aquarius, though, I mean, it functions as an air sign, but it really reads as a water sign to me because it's aqua, Aquarius. So that really will be our new beginnings as oceanic presence, just as awareness. So it seems like, the last 2 or 3 calls, I mean, a lot of the information has been very similar, and yet things are different during each call. But when you look on the cosmic level, 2 weeks is like a blip of nothing. As a matter of fact, 6 months would be a blip of nothing because time doesn't really exist. So if you look at things from that standpoint, it may feel like we're constantly going through disintegration and no seemingly new beginnings or integration work getting into a new unencumbered soul expression. Let's call it unencumbered soul expression, which would be free of the old karmic patterns and free of the old storylines and the history and the trauma, that we carry within the body, within the emotional body and the mental body and spiritual and, of course, in the physical. But, I mean, we really are attending this, and it's a very long process. I know when Jude and I were talking about some of this, that last year, before she passed away last year, I mean, she was already going into some of the dementia state, but she still was in pure presence. I mean, she never left just the all of, the oneness of everything. But we would talk about the time, what we perceived to be as time during our years of working together. And if you go back and say 18, 19 years ago and look at where you were at that particular time, mainly around 2005, like middle of 2005, is really when this last cycle with the moon's nodes where they are now, because those always go in 19-year cycles. So if you look at what was being experienced in your life at that time and what we were experiencing collectively, those things have come back around, and yet the energies have shifted and they're different with the way that we're working with them. And so we really are completely different people than we were 18 years ago. Some of those observations may be things that are glaring to you. They really stand out. And then some of the things that you may see about your life may be so subtle that in shifts, but because they shifted over time, you've forgotten really just how much certain things in your life have changed. I mean, the wonderful thing is we don't have to hold on to any of those stories anymore. We can just know that wherever we are now, is this immediate moment, and we get to go in and really ask ourselves, what do we want to change about our current reality if there are things that we don't like about our current manifestations? And, again, this is part of the core teaching with all of this is about taking our power. And if you have anything going on in your life, either with family, friends, business, it doesn't matter. No matter what the dynamic is, if it's something you're not happy with, it got manifested in some way by you with the universe, either through conscious or unconscious creation. So we really are in a time of taking inventory of that. The previous eclipse, which happened 2 weeks ago, was really about big endings. You know, it was that full moon energy. This is a new moon, and it's in Libra. And so, if you had a chance to read through any of the email stuff that I had sent out with some of the astrologers, one of the big things to note about this particular eclipse and the way it functions is all about relationships, because it's on the Aries-Libra axis. The I am presence of Libra from Aries, as opposed to the we of Libra, the balance aspect of who we are, and how we express ourselves through relationship. And it's either relationship with others or just our relationship with the all that is, God, however you want to perceive that. So, and this Aries-Libra axis of relationships has been happening again for, I guess, about a year. And then I think it goes into like 6 more months in the next year. I'm sorry. It started July of the previous year of 2022. Or not, 2023, yeah. And it's gone all this year, and then January of this year, it will switch signs. The nodal axis will. And again, the moon's nodes are how we perceive ourselves with the emotional body. It's the emotional baggage. It's the internal work we come here to do, really with spirit. I mean, through others too, but and again, the South Node, has to do with our history of what we come in with, the karma and all that kind of stuff, and the North Node is always what we're advancing toward. It's how we evolve in any given moment of time. So, we're coming up to the end of that in January. And so it's really fitting that we've gone through the last of Pluto and Capricorn right before that happens. And again, too, also with that, then we're going to have Saturn and Neptune changing signs both into Aries at the end of next year. So we've still got a whole nother year of shifting ourselves in the way we perceive ourselves in the emotional body, and also doing that deep healing work. But this is the last of Pluto and Capricorn within the structures of the physicality of who we are. So that's a big deal. I mean, there's a lot to that. And again, Pluto's that anaretic degree, the 29th degree of Capricorn. And when it goes into Aquarius, all new beginnings. And of course, we're trying to get a perspective of what that's going to look like. And that's not always an easy thing to do. And again, it always has been something where you have new beginnings from the endings. And in truth, though, as I've looked back to it, we're always, every nanosecond is an ending and a beginning. It's constant. And it's an infinite number of endings and beginnings. It's just that as we continue to transmute our own stuff, there's not really particular places of awareness that we get stuck in, because we're just staying in immediacy. So in other words, you're not really looking at endings of relationships or other endings in your life. It's the big endings dissolve, and you go into more micro shifting. It's more of that deep refinement, where we're really the diamond, where the silicon aspects of who we are, like in layers of Earth or something. It's like, I mean, it really is diamond formation, except it's happening on an energetic level. So, yeah, I mean, it's just part of what we're doing. But as we continue to let go, we're now doing micro level levels of awareness and transmutation. So that may mean, rather than letting relationships go that don't work anymore, changing jobs, or our homes or places like that, we're in micro work on an internal level as far as what we're trying to clear out and what we're trying to create for ourselves. And so that's kind of a place where we've not been taught about. And it's not really something you teach. It's something that you just go into as an awareness, because you've transmuted so much of the other deep stuff. And I just noticed we're now at 13 attendees. So we've had 13 videos on the YouTube. There's 13 subscribers and 13 attendees. That's a triple. That's a trinity right there. That's the Christic consciousness. So, and again, there are no mistakes to any of this, and everything is just there for bringing our attention to something. So it's almost like this eclipse, and this, it's really true. For this group, we're now 6 months into it, because we've gone from one eclipse series to another eclipse series. And it's also indicative of what's happening to us in other small groups, other family groups. It can be community groups within your state, and then on larger levels between, nationalities, racial, on every aspect. We really are shifting. So if we're shifting on the micro level of who we are on the personal, we're also shifting in the macro level of our awareness in all of these other fields. And that's where, again, we're going deeper into our multidimensional awareness of who we are as an energetic, affecting all of these other things that our lives are intertwined into. Let's just call it, well, it's the entanglement. And again, there's no separation with anything. So the more we go into more knowing of our own energy fields, the totality of who we are, not just within the body, but as multidimensional expressive energies that are intermingling and interpolated and working with everything on an energetic level outside of what we perceive ourselves to be. So that's how how all of us are affecting our communities, because again, everything's a frequency. When we shift our own frequencies, we then have the capacity to radiate that within our neighborhoods, within our family units, and all of that. The challenging part can be when we're in a family unit or business or whatever else, where the vibrational frequency is not raising proportionately to the level that our own conscious transformation is happening. It can feel very difficult to stay in relationships with people and places and things that don't match our frequency anymore. And it's one of the reasons why so many people are shifting either friendships or relationships, their vocations, whatever it is you're doing with your time. And again, the deeper you are immersed in your heart will really dictate to you how you will shift who you are as an expression. And again, it's not just about the family. It has to go all the way through. And if you're out of any type of integrity with your job, if there's any part of that job that leaves you in a place wondering why you're still doing it, or, you know, if you're still accommodating people that are not, you know, supportive of you, or that that are in a good influence, or a co-creative energy that creates the highest potentiality, we're just going to continue to just let those things fall away. And sometimes it will be Spirit is going to just lift us and take us to different places through many different types of mechanisms. Sometimes it will be serendipitous meetings with someone. You'll just click, eyes meet, hearts can join, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've known this person forever. Well, in truth, we've known everybody on the planet forever. If you go back to core oneness, but we are really coming together with soul tribes at this point, and that's one of the things the astrologers have talked about, is that this particular eclipse really is all about the beginnings. Yes, we still have a lot of powerful endings, and of course the beginnings come for the endings, but it really is brand new energy. And so, let me see, I'm trying to remember, there's something also about Mars configurations and transits that are also going to affect us, and Mars is about action. So if we've been in this place for the last 6 months from the last eclipse series, and it was really powerful when we started doing this work and setting up our own meditation. I mean, really, we all co-created this. I mean, the ones that have been regularly on it, you know, and there have been many of you that have not missed any of these, I think. And then maybe a couple of you just missed one or two, but the bulk of you have been in a very regular attendance. And so it's been a commitment to our own internal transformation, and also to our a commitment to shift who we are as an expression, not just in our own lives, but also in those around us. And so as we go in and hold these higher frequencies, we are magnetizing and co-creating a safe place where additional people can come on. And I don't think it's a mistake where, I mean, there's currently 13 attendees and 13 videos and 13 subscribers. I have a feeling this is going to be where the growth spurt starts, in potentially, you know, an exponential way in our capacity to draw in other like-minded, you know, members of our tribe, you know, as it were. I mean, really, there is just one tribe. It's a human tribe of 8 billion people, but we really are putting out a frequency where anyone that is looking for a place where their hearts can feel met, where their souls feel met, that's really what we've created here. And I think it's taken the 6 months of really building the foundation at our core, because every time we've come on and done these meditations together, we're aligning our energy fields in such a way, at least on you know, more vast, I guess, level of awareness, just from a soul standpoint. It doesn't mean that we don't each all have very unique lives that we're living and still going through, you know, different levels of soul work. I mean, as long as we're here and breathing, we're going through soul work. I don't care who you are and how advanced you are. I mean, unless you're vibrating at such a high rate that you're, you know, levitating or something, you know, but we're still here in that space. And so I really think that's also the reason why, you know, each of us have continued to call in, because we do feel that connection on a core level. And a lot of us have, you know, done the work with Jude over these years, and so we've just, I mean, all I did was create a space where we just continue it. And of course, I'm the one that articulates most of all this, but of course, I mean, Jude trained me in all of it. But as you're reading it, though, we're still one as far as the frequency. as far as the healing aspects of who we are, as souls. And so I really think that we're going to continue to open up and go into a huge expansive creation, especially when Pluto goes into Aquarius. Again, Aquarius, it's oceanic presence. It's the air, the ether, space, all the space in between, out in the cosmic awareness. So I really think that's what's going to blow up and really open up for us. It may not open up until, like toward, maybe the middle of November, toward the end of the year. And again, even though we do 2 weeks between these calls, there's no time. There really is no time in between any of these calls. From the moment we hang up from one call to the next call, our awareness is living out whatever's happening in our lives. But I really feel like no time has passed from one call to the next. And again, that's the phenomena of the quantum entanglement continuing to collapse on itself, so that everything is just a now moment. You have so many of the spiritual teachers that are articulating, what we're doing and how we're functioning in those particular languages or contexts. So if you're only in the now moment, it's like, well, there's no referencing anything else. So, and at some point we'll stop referencing, the past us. We won't reference the wounded aspects of who we are or our family or anything, because they'll cease to exist. And the more we do that, then you're just in the immediacy of a moment and you're in cosmic flow. And so the soul expression really is led by Mother, Father, God to go to the next lighted step. And your mind is no longer leading you. It's always your heart. Well, your mind is integrated with the your heart, which is hooked in very deeply with Mother, Father, God. So you're in divine flow. And it really, again, this is the new function. If you've been with us for any amount of time and read, all the same spiritual people, whoever they've been, it could be the Jennifer Hoffmans, it could be Aluna Joy Yakin, it could be years ago Karen Bishop, Aaliyah Mir, there's all sorts, whoever's writing, Celia Finn. That's been their purpose. Lauren Gorgos, Sandra Walters, they really have been holding that core frequency for people to come in and do the meditative work with them. And of course, as we know, when we sit in and do this meditation, we've been shifting ourselves at the very core. And I really do, I just want to give a heartfelt appreciation to every one of you that have really, attended these things with us, because everything we shift for us, we're shifting for everything around us, for every person around us. We're a drop in the ocean individually, but as a group of 13, again, what we're doing it as a Christ conscious awareness. And again, there's no mistakes to that. So from that standpoint, it really, I think we're all invited to make an observation of that, as far as coming to the total realization of how we've taken our power. And on an individual level, by choosing to be part of the group that we've been doing, but also to really go in and see maybe how we're shifting the field around us, the morphogenetic field. And so on a collective level, I think that we're shifting each other's lives. I think we're disintegrating timelines that don't work for any of us anymore. It really is the coming together, as Jude would always, say, all the old teachings where, two or more are gathered, then you're working as and with presence. If you're in a really deep communing space, and I really think that's where we are. Sometimes it's hard to think of ourselves, I guess, as oneness, as as God, as a totality of, of the whole, and actually that we're creating change. And sometimes because we're not necessarily doing something, we may think that we're not doing anything, and yet we're becoming who we're supposed to be. The very act of becoming is kind of a passive doing, as presence. And I think that's probably the hardest thing for most humans to really understand. I mean, it certainly was for me. I mean, all these years of doing meditative work with Jude and the workshops, I mean, we'd go in and we feel good and we're buzzing and, oh, this is great. Oh, we go way out there. And, I mean, so many of us just float out in the cosmos when we're really deep in these meditative states. And yet, every time we've gone and done that, it does shift who we are in our core. And so, we really are at this precipice of new beginnings. And so I feel like as we're going in and doing this type of stuff now with this eclipse window closing, we're actually at the end of the 2-week eclipse time period. This is the second eclipse. But the eclipse window won't technically really be closed until like around the 16th or 17th. It really is the next moon cycle, which actually is in Aries, and that's, again, no mistake. It'll be a full moon in Aries. It's going to be an activation. So all of this energy and shifting we've been doing in this eclipse window that started with the new moon that opened it up before the eclipses started, it really is going to be when we initiate on a bigger scale who we are as, in a more shifted expression. And again, there's a lot of confusing energy, I think, coming up through the end of the year that challenges us. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. Whether it's more heavy Saturn transits. Saturn, of course, is the work we come here to do. And Neptune is the dream. It is the individual, but also the collective dream. And so as Saturn and Neptune are playing back and forth, they are, think about them as the tumblers. Like we're in, imagine we're sitting in a river and water's flowing over us. And you may have other particulates in that water that are going over us, each as a pebble. And they're slowly, on lower micronic levels, shifting who we are as presence. And except this is more oceanic presence. So, but it's a deep level of refinement. And really that's happening from now all the way through, again, beginning of 2026. So as we're in this timetable, how can we become more deeply aware of what we want to create? And again, I know that feels like a booby-trapped question because, I mean, I still have no clue on a big, deep scale what we're creating. I'm just staying in the moment as Spirit dictates to me, and really meeting ourselves on deep quantum levels and doing the assisting with shifting, who we are as a group. But we're also putting that out into the field. So, So I guess that's kind of the long and the short. I didn't mean to go over too much that deep, but I think it's important to really gain a little bit of clarity on the vast changes that we are attending with ourselves, but also how it can affect the world around us on a much deeper level. We know it, we've talked about it before, and yet we really are going into a much deeper awareness of just who we are as an expression and how we affect our external world in the quality and the frequency of our expression. So, having said all of that, we'll go ahead and go into the deep transcendental meditation and go ahead and shift any additional things that we have, each of us individually and then also collectively. So no matter what's going on, in your life, just put it all up here on the fire, as it were. Actually, I don't think it's fire. I think this is about water, all the Neptune stuff and all this hurricane energy and the massive water that came through. There's really no mistake that this all happened with water. Water, in a way, is softer than fire because it doesn't burn, and yet, as we know, water is a very volatile energy. It packs a lot of power, and it's shifting a lot, and it shifted a lot for us in this country specifically. But again, one drop in the ocean and it goes out exponentially. So imagine that everything got shifted in the United States is shifting all around the world, but it's also shifting cosmically. So again, I mean, this there's so much to it. You almost can't even articulate it all, which I won't even try. But what we'll do, let's just go in and take your temperatures and get comfortable. And if you're in a place in the house where you're not by yourself, you always do better to go in by yourself in a room and either lay in bed or sit reclining somewhere and just really be able to collapse on every type of level, so that this level of quantum healing can go in and really do its transformative work. So on that note, we will just get really still. And just kind of scan your field, who you are as a multidimensional expression. Try to gain an awareness of not just within your own physicality, but imagine gaining additional awareness to who you are as an energy event on every type of timeline that you could possibly be interacting with outside of this particular timeline. There may be people that listen to this and say, what on earth is he talking about? If they've never been exposed to the timelines. Some of you will know immediately what we're talking about, and you'll be able to go in on a really core level and shift all of that. As we each fall deeper into our physical heart centers, we're also going deeper into the cosmic heart. We're going deeper into who we are as multidimensional expressions. And you may feel like your physical heart is becoming lighter. And indeed, that's one of the things that's happening as we go through these levels of awareness. Where you place your attention, you're able to transmute those energies. Some people can create such a deep permission for shift and change that once they go into that awareness, they are completely different people from the moment that they went into that awareness. And as you let your breath go in and out, just normally, nothing fast, nothing slow, feel the release of any and all stagnant energy within your field as you exhale. Do you feel like sometimes your awareness, your conscious awareness, blinks out, and then all of a sudden you'll be jolted back and you'll think that you've been gone for an hour at a time, and yet here it's only been maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. Perhaps those of you that have been on these calls for a long period of time, for over the last many years, let's say a couple of decades, you probably can track how much deeper that you can go as a cosmic awareness in a meditative state than you could a few years ago, or even yesterday, or just today. It's like everything is more immediate. The access to the flu, or to just nothing. I'm not sure if y'all are aware of it, but we have gone so deep during this healing transmission. We really have exponentially grown to a point where we can hold such a deep frequency, and we can get there in more immediate of a timetable than we used to. The healing can go on in such deep levels of awareness than we've ever gone before. So it doesn't take as long to go through transmutation, because we've all been attending these meditations during this whole eclipse time. I feel like I've blinked and a whole year has passed just within these last 20 minutes of meditation. And again, that's what's happening with the morphogenetic field. Everything is exponentially going faster and faster and faster. Everything is immediate. So as you feel all this healing and shifting within your own field, let's just send that out to all of the areas, especially in the United States, that were affected by the hurricane and the flooding and the water and all of that energy. And know that it's immediate. We don't have to get there. Everything is immediate. We don't even have to sit and call in the company of heaven anymore. We don't have to articulate all the ascended masters and all of the archangelic kingdoms and the elementals and the Elohim. They're all here. If we each have a momentary something that we're addressing in our lives, we certainly can do that. And as for St. Germain and the Violet Flame and so on, and the Diamond Christ lights. Well, what's interesting, we haven't done it, and look how fast and deeply we went into the field, into our own I Am presence. We've undergone such a deep healing. And when you look at it in perspective with 6 months ago, it is vast. Imagine where we'll be in 6 months from now. And I hope for anyone that's listening to the call later through the YouTube videos, again, everything, even though we're doing this on the eclipse time, everything's a frequency. These frequencies are recorded into the energy of this transmission. So no matter who you are and when you're listening to this video, it's meant perfectly for you. They always say that when the student is ready, the teacher presents themselves. And the same is true for these videos, or any video you listen to. Whatever you're drawn to is exactly where your soul and spirit is in that particular moment of time. You're invited to Stay in these frequencies there in your own home and your own space. I'll continue to radiate out this particular healing frequency that we're at in this moment. But I'll go ahead and actually close down the official meditation, and I'll leave you here on the calls as long as you you're gaining the energy in. But again, thank all of you so much for attending and being with us. Eternal love and infinite blessings to you.